Seinen anime is one of the biggest demographics of anime and manga. This demographic is also quite popular, more so than either Shojo or Josei. I think a good reason for this, I'm including shonen in this as well, is that these demographics have more series that target a wider audience than Shojo and Josei do. What I mean by this is that as a girl you are more likely to enjoy a shonen or a seinen series than a guy is to enjoy a Shojo or a Josei series. Not to say guys like that don't exist, because I'm one of them, but it's just more likely a thing. And because the series have a wider appeal to them, they of course end up being far more popular than most other series. Series like Berserk or Vagabond are series you hear mentioned all the time as one of the greats of manga, but when do you ever hear someone say that about Yona of the Dawn or Chihaya Furu? Probably never in most people's cases. But that mostly comes down to the fact that not as many people have read these series because they don't have as wide of an appeal. Even though these series are written as if they could be a shonen or even a seinen series, Chihaya Furu is basically just a sports manga with a little bit of romance, and Yona of the Dawn is a massively expansive series about multiple kingdoms with lots of history and fighting and all the cool stuff most people love in their series. However, because they heard the term Shojo or Josei, they are like, I'm not reading that or I'm not watching that, which is sad. But that goes to show the pull that seinen series have. There are so many seinen anime and manga that get talked about as if they are the best things ever made, and in some cases that very well might be true. Berserk. With the popularity of seinen series, I want to discuss exactly why this demographic was able to become more popular than the others and permeate itself in the conversation about some of the greatest series ever put to paper. I'm going to bring up a few series that I haven't already mentioned in this video and talk about exactly what makes these series more appealing to a wider audience than other series, specifically the Shojo and Josei demographics. But before I do that, it would be awesome if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I make new anime and manga content every single week on a variety of topics, so I'm sure you'll have something you will love to see. So the first series I want to talk about is a series that's quite popular in the manga world, not so much in the anime world though. And that series is Blade of the Immortal. Blade of the Immortal is a samurai manga about a girl seeking revenge for the death of her family. This series has a very compelling story that is told through its over 30-volume run. The characters in this series are really well written and feel like they could really have lived during this time period in Japan. The series' setting works really well for making the struggles of the characters work so much better. The setting is during the transitioning period of Japan where Japan was starting to westernize and the old way of the samurai was dying out. This works so well as the characters struggle with this throughout the series and the world seemingly wants to reject the old way of doing things. All of this makes the series way more compelling and awesome. The relationships of the characters are awesome as well. There are so many intimate character moments throughout this series that really make you love the characters a lot. Even some of the ones you're supposed to hate, I find really awesome and amazing. This is one of the biggest appeals of this series. The characters have badass moments, but they also have intimate moments as well that make them feel more human and not as much like characters. The villains are compelling and also feel human. You can understand their motivations and realize that these people are just humans doing whatever they can to live day by day in this cruel and terrible world. You can also say the same about the females of this series. They are so strong-willed and incredible, they all have to fight day by day just to get by. They struggle and some of them go through some truly horrendous things, but they all are handled extremely well. The mangaka doesn't treat these characters as damsels in distress, he gives them just as many moments to shine as the men, showing everyone just how men and women can be badass and handle themselves as well. These two things are probably the biggest reasons why people recommend this series. Most people may not recognize or even mention them when recommending this series, but they are probably the biggest factor as to why so many people love this series, including women. The next series I want to mention is a series that I think so many people already know about, and that's Dorohedoro. This series is an awesome series about a lizard man trying to find his true identity and get revenge on whoever turned him into this. That description makes this series sound like it's going to be some really dark, really serious story, and you would be wrong. This series is pretty much just a comedy with a story to it. Almost nothing in this series should be taken too seriously. The characters just joke around and have a good time in this very disgusting, gritty, dark world. Which is actually what I think the biggest appeal to this series is. This series has phenomenal characters that all play off each other really well and also have a lot more serious moments as well. This series has some really good female characters in it as well. The main heroine is this badass girl who has gone through some things but is now just trying to live day by day with her friends. There are also a few other female characters in the series that all have very interesting, fun, and wacky personalities that really make them likable characters. This series took me by surprise with how the story was written. I did not expect the series to be a comedy when I was going into it, but despite my surprise, I still really enjoyed this series for how it was able to handle every aspect of the story. The big appeal to this series, I think, is how it presents everything. This series has some really nice female representation as well as a good bit of story. You can also do some nice ships for this series if you like shipping characters together. But either way, this series has a wide appeal because of the way that the series was able to balance comedy and seriousness, while also having some fun characters that can be relatable at times. This series is another perfect example of why I think seinen anime and manga are much more appealing to a wider audience than most other demographics are. Seinen anime and manga have a wide appeal to them to make them a lot more popular than most other demographics. They are able to take what everyone loves about shonen and mature the content to make it the best it could possibly be. These series don't hold back and give a good variety of series to be told. Seinen has a good amount of representation across the board and makes the series more appealing to a wider audience. That to me is what makes it so much more popular than Shojo and Josei anime and manga series.